What you can see here is the scriber. I think it's a scriber. I'm going to call it a scriber marker. Now this is a device made by Mike Palmer from MP Custom Blades, and it's a wonderful piece of kit. Now what I want to use this for is to mark the tapered tangs on the back of these knives, because I need a visual mark to tell me how much material to remove from the back of the tang before I start to taper it. Now I selected these two blanks here because one of these has a very slight warp in it, and it's an unfortunate fact that sometimes you can get warpage when you quench your knife. It's just it's just a fact of life, and there's two good ways to remove your warps. One is to gently hot bend. I do it after the first temper cycle. Some people do it after the quench, but I always do it after the first temper cycle, and then I can correct the warp. And sometimes they don't like this one, that didn't warp at all, it's perfect. But the other way to actually correct a warp is you can leave the warp in the blade, run it through its temper cycles, and provided the warp isn't bad, then you can grind that warp out when you taper the tang. Having this device which floats on the surface, this is a plate glass surface that's nice and flat, and you've got a level datum all the way along. So this blade is, I'm not sure which way it's warping. I think it's, as you can see, it's a very tiny warp, and it's warping its banana in that way, very slightly. So making sure that this part of the knife is held firmly, I just simply get this scriber, and I've preset it for the width of tang that I want to leave. Scribe one side, turn it over. Now again, I want this taper to be in reference to this part of the blade, not this part of not the tang itself. So I just apply pressure on this. This is perfectly flat here, and then I apply the scriber again. So that's put two scribe lines in. I'll show you those in a minute. So we'll move on to the blade now, which is perfectly straight, and we'll do the same thing. Scribe along, turn it over, scribe along. Now I'll try and bring you in for a closer look at the back of those knives, and you'll be able to see how this is automatically offset to allow for the warp in one of the blades. But you can see one line, this one here, the line is much closer to this side than this one. So that tells me I've just got to grind a tiny amount off of this side of the tang, but a lot more off of that side to make that taper central. This one here is virtually equidistant, so that's indicative of the blade being quite straight. So that's how I accurately mark out and grind my tapers. It's simply just a matter now of going onto the grinder and putting in the little visual markers, and then going about doing the taper in a normal fashion. that's it. I've just so I can zoom you in a bit better. I've put my two little visual grind marks on the backs there, and if you can see on one of them, the grind mark is quite low on one side but higher on the other, and this one it's more or less equidistant. So that's how I get a nice even tang, tapered tang. Luckily the other knives I did in this batch, these were all nice and straight, so I didn't have to compensate at all for these. But the knife that was slightly warped, which has been corrected through grinding the warp out, will be just as good as the others, just as strong, and will perform just as well.